Hello dear friends, my name is Kristina Mariinskaya. I am the founder and teacher of the Mariinskaya online school. I welcome you to my Oscar course dedicated to the in-depth study of academic drawing. In general, the academic drawing and the concept of the academic approach are somewhat frightening. It immediately seems that this is some kind of unbelievable amount of work, that it's impossible, that only those who started studying from an early age can do it, and so on. In fact, everything is simple here. Academic drawing is just the base of any drawing. According to popular opinion, the academy is connected with something very serious, realistic, and unbearable for everyone. I like the name classical more than academic, because it doesn't sound so scary. I believe that academic drawing is just the basis of any perception. This is a subject that will help you to perceive the environment more, how to depict whatever you want. That's just a guide on how to draw the world that surrounds you. It teaches you consistently, at first, from simple geometric shapes to something more complicated, such as plaster casts or nature. In general, this is a classic program that's used in art schools, art academies, and universities. In other words, drawing is a necessary foundation or base in the study of artistic disciplines. This is the first thing we start with. It's considered that it's required to start at first with the study of the drawing, and only then with color and all disciplines related to it, like the harmony of color, its influence, and emotional load. Drawing will help you to understand any form, its construction, structure, and texture. Thanks to it, you will be able to accurately and quickly depict any plot using a line. All these things will help you to feel much more confident in colors. If, on the contrary, you start with color, you will most likely miss the shape. That's why many self-taught people have problems with the similarity and accuracy of the drawing. All that is due to the reason they are immediately immersed in the study of color and not shape. And believe me, it's always felt when a person starts not with a drawing but with painting. Usually, it's very difficult for such people to depict realistically such simple objects like a vase, an apple, and so on. It's like a kind of temptation. After all, working with color can be more interesting. I fully understand you in this, because I was in this position at the time. But over the years, I realized that it's worth listening to advice and still following the training system. As part of the course, we will initially study the volume from simple shapes, like a sphere or a cube. I will show you and explain how it will all happen. You will understand and even make sure that working with a drawing can be very pleasant. You will be especially pleased when you could apply the knowledge in real life. For example, you will go out on plein or some idea will come to you, no matter what, and you will be able to portray it. This is a perfect to know and understand the classical basic of drawing. Throughout the course, we will consider the basic graphic techniques, such as hatching and shading, that is, line and spot reception. The program will be interesting enough and full of information, but don't worry, everything will be structured and clear. We will start with the simplest basics, and gradually I will complicate the task. I advise you to take the course program in the order that I have suggested. It will be weird to start with drawing flowers or still life if you don't understand the basic approach and such fundamental things as building, working with a line and spot. In fact, you can use all these techniques in classical drawing in everyday life. For example, doing photography, videography, design, or architecture. Any creative profession. Everything that concerns this design and modeling is based on a drawing or some kind of construction. Your skill to be able to portray this and show your knowledge to the customer, client, or just the viewer will be greatly appreciated and will attract attention to you and your work. Again, without this knowledge, any additional decor will disintegrate if there is no foundation, such as walls in the base. The concept of classical drawing as an independent discipline was vividly manifested in the Renaissance. Not only painting, not only composition, but already liner drawing. In the Renaissance era, there were masters who began to draw on paper. Previously, the drawing was interpreted as a small sketch for a color picture, but not as an independent element or even more so as a whole discipline. No one drew portraits of people or nature or buildings separately with a pencil. The drawing was the first stage in the search for an idea, its contours, location, and shape. Oddly enough, earlier, drawings with graphic materials were made on the wall, and that's all. What may be unacceptable now, but surely everyone remembers the wall drawings. That's what I mean. In other words, before the Renaissance, most drawings were made on hard surfaces and were not considered as separate art. Now, in our modern world, you can imagine that it wasn't very comfortable. For such drawings, the artists used improvised materials that nature gave them, such as clay, coal, or chalk. Let me remind you that in the 14th and 15th centuries, there were still no art shops, and even more those who produced materials for them. Most often, artists invited it exclusively on their own. This explains why so many paintings of those times differ greatly in technique and color effects. In the late Renaissance, such magnificent masters as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael appeared, who were the ancestors of drawing on paper. These artists began to consider drawing as an independent discipline. Making preliminary sketches for their paintings, they paid a lot of attention to details, which was not observed earlier. It was really an incredible breakthrough. And of course, there were many other artists who considered graphics as a separate art form, but probably they didn't do it so successfully as these three masters who created almost at the same time. And then the drawing acquired not just a line, but also a tone. What does it mean to have a volume of work? In fact, now, when we hear a drawing, most likely we immediately imagine a full-fledged graphic work with light, halftones, and shadow. We no longer see exclusively the silhouette of one form or another. We see a complex and full-fledged work with all light-shadow features. In the same era, artists discovered the perspective, the proportions of a person, and any living or non-living form, which was also not there before. At the beginning of the course, we will look at simple exercises for arm placement. They will help you to learn how to feel the pencil, control the pressure, choose the right angle of the line, and so on. This is necessary because usually the human hand is not used to such maneuvers and movements. For this, there are a number of exercises for novice artists that prepare them to work with the drawing. Now, I invite you to move on to our first serious lesson, where we will analyze the materials necessary for completing the course. Let's start reviewing the materials.